Hello and welcome to another episode of Rapidly Aging Technology. Today, we're hopefully finishing the bloody XPS 720 video series. At least finishing the whole building process. So last time when we left off, you may recall that we were running mem tests. We had the QX6850 in there, and things seemed to be going fine. I ended the video, and then there was an addendum onto the end that, that wasn't working quite right either. The situation, if you don't recall, is that the NVIDIA 680i chipset, at least in certain revisions, was not a fan of the 1333 megahertz front-side bus, which, while it could technically support it, it was less than stable, didn't like it, and the 6850 runs on that front-side bus, just like the 9650 of the later series that has more L2 cache. So the solution was to move down to a lower front-side bus chip. In this case, the QX6800, which runs on the older 1066 front-side bus, the same one that the Pentium Extreme Edition, a 965 ran on, and runs smoother. So since you've seen me take the cooler off so many times by now in this series, I just did that. I also got Windows installed and updated, went with Windows 7, because this is, I think, a stout enough machine to keep using today. And I didn't want to, XP seemed to be not quite the right choice just because this machine can handle a good solid chunk of RAM. So that didn't make sense. I didn't have XP 64-bit at the time. I do now, and I'm going to do that in another machine, at least temporarily. And I don't have really many copies of Vista, but if I'm going to put Vista on something, I might as well do Windows 7, in my mind. 7 is still supported, and is still my primary operating system. So, did all that. Is working. The 6800, because of that lower front side bus, has a lower default clock speed of 2.9 something. But it is unlocked, and by bumping the multiplier up just once, it moves to 3.2 gigahertz. And it seems to be holding nice and stable. The motherboard, of course, does by default bump the voltage up a bit higher, but it's still within, I actually did some research this time, it's within safe margins, and the temperatures are staying okay. This particular 6850 is the revision G0. So it actually has a little more heat tolerance and voltage tolerance than, say, the earlier versions, which is good. That makes it a little easier to work with. Now, one person, I think in the comments, suggested, now hold on a second, why don't you just boot into Windows, use NVIDIA's Entune software, and on the 6850, and then knock down the front side bus to 1066, because you can do that with the Entune program, and then you won't have to switch out the CPUs. It'll just work, which is an excellent suggestion. However, the problem with that is that with the 6850, I can't reliably boot into Windows. The most I could install XP and boot into it for a brief period before it would just crash. It just randomly restart. The system would just restart without warning. And there wasn't really enough time to necessarily do that. On 7, I think I got through the install process once out of many attempts because it just crashed in the middle of it. I don't know why. Maybe 7 is harder on the system. I'm not sure. So that solution doesn't quite work.
This is Rapidly Aging Technology, the editor, speaking with the old beige desk microphone. I'm here to inform you that the NVIDIA Entune software has more of a story behind it. After installing Windows, I tracked down the software to try it out. I discovered that the software was quite unstable. The monitor would crash immediately if it was not put into compatibility mode for Windows Vista. The main software itself, the control panel, would open safely, but any changes attempted to be made would cause the program to crash. Even a simple setting like changing the main CPU fan speed would cause the software to crash. Putting it in compatibility mode prevented that from happening, but the same simple setting caused no change. Nothing would happen. The software may have its uses, perhaps with XP or Vista, but rest assured that it seems to be less than useful for Windows 7, and therefore, even in a scenario where Windows 7 would have installed correctly on the 6850, it was unlikely that Entune would have been able to save the machine.
So I had to go to the 6800, which was, I mean, it's a bit of a slightly cheaper chip, but the performance should be very similar. Has a lot of cache on it, just like the 6850. It's got 8 megabytes, so the slightly lower front side bus speed shouldn't hit its performance too hard. Anyway, let's get this thing upgraded now, and hopefully for the final time. All right, so remember, if you don't recall, we're doing the NVIDIA 7950 X2s, which have kind of weird, like smushing out thermal paste, but it looks like it's still making good contact. We're doing 2 of these. We're doing quad SLI. Finally, right? All right. This top card goes here. Go. And then you need to take one of our 6-pin power, which I could have done this when the card was out, but I'm an idiot, and plug it into there. There we go. Heard the click. Once again, this bracket over here for the kind of workstation style full-size cards is handy, and it was great for helping guide these in. So there's one. And that covers up, this covers up the top small PCI Express 1X slot. And we have the second card here. Make sure it goes over the little bumps back here and front. And what did I just say? What did I just tell you that I could have done with the other one? Gosh darn it. Come on, there we go. All right. Now watch where your hands go. On that metal part, that's okay, but you don't want to like start reefing on a capacitor. So now we have 2 remaining standard PCI slots and a PCI Express 16X, though I think electrically it might tone itself down a bit. A technical term. So one of these slots, we're putting the Odyssey 2 ZS, primarily because it's I have a lot of these cards because they were really cheap, and I found them at Free Geek, and I found another good deal online. So I have a lot floating around, and I can't really complain because they're pretty good cards, but they're a bit old for this kind of build. So that's one legitimate complaint you could say, but oh well, it gets the job done. Let's take our strange Dell white front panel connector. If you have any information on this connector, as in it wasn't really a Dell thing, it was just a thing maybe Sound Blaster Creative tried to push and then no one went for it except for Dell, that would be great to know, because I've always figured that the cards with that connector were somehow OEM cards, but there's a lot of them out there, and I don't know, it seems a bit difficult to imagine that they're all OEM cards. And we'll put our floppy cable back in. Remember the white stripe, or on a standard gray cable, the maybe red stripe or red polka dot wire is wire number 1. With a bit of fussing, I got that in. Final card is this Anchor brand USB 3.0 card. Oh, well, that's not the final card, but I'm going to put it in because I'm going to have to give power to it. Let's see. So we got a Molex power cable with adapters and all that hoopla. And we want to make sure that it's keyed in. You see how it fits in there. I always find it interesting that older standards, they have fairly subtle edges to them on what's up and what's down. And it's fine and dandy when you're looking straight onto them. But if you're in a situation where you can't really see what's going on, sometimes it's a bit hard to figure out. Today on Rapidly Aging Technology, the joys of seeing a man fumble around trying to insert cards. I think that's in. Yeah, it looks like it. Let's just put down the little blue holder just to keep things in place. There we go. So that's not the final card. So I have at this very moment a spare PCI slot. For the time being, I'm going to put in a parallel card. I usually like to have parallel and serial on every computer, and just for tradition's sake, backwards compatibility, that sort of thing. I usually would have one that also has a serial cable on here, but I'm lacking one. I just have this one. If you have any better suggestions on what should I put in that PCI slot, please leave a comment down below. This isn't comment baiting. This is legitimate. What do you think this computer should have that would make it particularly useful, make it stand out, that sort of thing. I do have in a computer I got for free a pretty interesting PCI card we'll go over. That's used to interface with a audio interface. So most audio interfaces now for recording and whatnot are, there we go, USB based. So they have all their components inside, and then you just plug them into your computer using your USB ports, and you have software. This one doesn't. It goes through a funny connector. I'm going to fiddle with that one a bit because it's not quite in right. All right, all the cards are in, along with all of the little blue tabs that hold everything in. Everything has power that needs power. Cables are going to all the places they need to go to. And we are ready to go. Yes, it is a tangled mess. Yes, I understand that. No need to complain. I may end up putting, I put 2 optical drives in this one, didn't I? Yes, I did. At some point, I may end up putting a Blu-ray drive in here. That's what, I firmly believe in every computer having an optical drive, including laptops, in as much as possible. And might as well have a Blu-ray drive. I have a number of movies I have on Blu-ray now just because my main machine can play them. And it's nice to have. I don't want to deal with a USB thingamajigger most of the time. Anyway, let's get the side panel back on, get this thing fired up. Well, we almost forgot something quite important. The SLI bridge. And, in one of the previous episodes, we kind of had guessed or figured out, probably more like guessed, what direction the SLI bridge went in. And it's not keyed in any way. The only thing that really stands out is that there's, on one side, there's a little more a pointer type of thing. Is that pointing up? Which, for a standard ATX case, would mean that we need to do it that way. Because this is BTX and everything's reversed. I don't know. I'm just going to put it on, and if it doesn't like it, we'll try it again. There we go. Now we can get the side panel back on and fire up and install the drivers, which I've already placed on the desktop. All right, super low light, moment of truth. Here we go. Well, that's a good sign. Ominous red out the back. And here we go. I'm going to go into setup real quick. I'm just going to I'm going to turn off one of the power saving features. The whatever Intel calls it, I'll probably put it up, or I'll say it later. The thing where it lets the core speed drop down, we're going to shut that off for what we're doing today. But then I might turn it on later. But this isn't a laptop. I don't care about power saving. It looks like there was a bit of an issue, which of course I didn't catch on film. It declared a data line error, and then sat at a a stuck post screen before eventually hitting into the BIOS after resetting a few settings. I think switching over to dual graphics cards probably threw the system for a loop. This thing tends to, with major changes, this system has tended to do that because the multiplier on the CPU, which got knocked back down to 11 from 12, wouldn't really affect memory timings or the PCI Express multiplier clocks or any of those goofy settings. So yeah, there's that. I'll probably end up pushing that back up. But Windows installed its own drivers, but we're not going to do that because we have the official NVIDIA drivers here. Also, if you hear that hard drive, that is a Velociraptor 500 gigabyte. So it's one of the, I think it's of the final series, because the final series went 1 terabyte, 500, and I think 250, while the one before was 600, 300, 150. Yeah, they're a bit, they have more noise to them, which I actually appreciate. So now we're going to install the NVIDIA drivers. Which there are Windows 7 drivers for these graphics cards, which is great. I mean, you really should, when you do such a top of the line card, you really should support it for a while. So we'll get this all installed, restart, and then see what we need to do for the we'll have to do sound too, I'm pretty sure. Let's check. Yep, as you can see down here, the looks like the sound card isn't recognized fully, which that's fine. I agree. We'll do custom. Oh, a clean installation. That's what we'll do. Alright, well, either it's linked to their website through the web, or this driver is so new that it referenced a 1070. Holy smokes. So once this gets all done, we will pop it, and a 1080 Ti. Well, this computer could take one of those. I think it has PCI Express revision probably 1, but it could use it. Not sure if it'd be the best use. Alright, Task Manager's working a bit. Let's see what temperatures we're running on things. Okay. Alright, we're back down to the standard clock speed of 2.93 gigahertz. Temperatures so far with this, okay load up to 50%. Temperatures are looking pretty good. That's just fine and dandy. I think I turned off speed step, but it still fluctuates a little bit. That's okay. Now we want to get rid of that one, and we'll just. I always grew up. This is probably an old Windows sort of thing. You don't let the program. You don't let the program restart. You restart yourself. So I'll do that, and then we'll be back. All right, we've restarted the computer, and the NVIDIA control panel which this used to be called Foursquare. I don't think it's Foursquare anymore. But we'll call it that anyway, because I still call Catalyst, whatever Radeon's using now, Radeon settings, Catalyst. Anyway, so Foursquare popped up and said, hey, you can do SLI. You should probably, make a choice on that. And so right now we're on disabled. Disable SLI by default. All GPUs will run independently. Use this option when you want to disable all SLI and multiple GPU rendering. And if I remember correctly, in order to use multiple displays, when you have multiple displays plugged in, you have to turn off SLI with these cards. It was a limitation. But we want to maximize. We want a quad SLI. Look at that. Official. This is my first multi-graphics card setup ever. And the first time I'm doing it, I've gone big with quad SLI. This is really cool, I think. So now we're going to get all our other settings set up, get our sound. Then I'll do the USB controller, probably the parallel card. So I'll go through those, and then we're going to see if we can play something. So I'm not sure if you want to see driver installs, but there we go. So we'll apply that. Did it break? Oh dear. It's doing something. Oh dear, oh dear. Is this how that normally works? Well, Alright, so I uninstalled the NVIDIA graphics, restarted the computer, and Windows Update started to install its own stuff, and I just let it do its own thing. And it actually installed the same driver, so I'm not sure if there's an issue of double drivers going on, but I let Windows do that, restarted. I haven't switched on SLI yet because I'm finishing up the creative drivers, including Alchemy, which allows for hardware accelerated sound more or less to work on some older games under Windows Vista and higher, because Windows Vista and up no longer use traditional hardware accelerated sound. I just went ahead and said yes to all these other things like Wave Studio and whatnot. I won't necessarily use them, but I'm just saying yes. Why not? I had already downloaded Alchemy and was ready to install it manually, but Auto Update found it anyway through Creative, so I'm just going to let it do that. And then once we're done with that, we'll see if we can kick on SLI again. If that doesn't work, I'll try flipping the bridge over. And I'm also going to check Windows Update, because it looks like there was maybe an NVIDIA update at some point, potentially. I'm not sure. Alright, we have all the drivers installed. Except for one unknown device that's on the PCI bus. Not really sure what that is, because the USB 3.0 card is installed. The parallel port card is installed. The sound card is installed. We have sound now. So that's working. Working just fine. Sounds great. Now we just need to solve this little problem. Can we turn on SLI? Because this computer, it recognizes the monitor. It says the monitor model right there, as you can tell. It has both cards. And we've uninstalled the old drivers. We let Windows install the same set, more or less. I've checked Windows Update. We've restarted the computer multiple times doing different things. So it should work. Let's hope that it works. Let's see. All right, come on. Come on. Come on. Okay. That's a bit better this time because the resolution actually kind of fixed itself. But it doesn't want to respond when we do that. Okay, the CPU is not fighting. Oh, this is just a pickle now, isn't it? Okay, well, it still recognizes the monitor, but it's it seems to have forgotten its maximum resolution. All right, this is the error after you restart. The GPU fans are still maxed, and this is the error you find when you try to open up the NVIDIA control panel. NVIDIA display settings are not available. You are not currently using a display attached to an NVIDIA GPU. What? Excuse me? I don't think that's right. So now we're going to try to find that one particular program for wiping out graphics drivers, completely clean slate the thing, and then we'll try reinstalling again. Ugh, this is not pleasant. I'll probably flip the cable too, just to see what happens. Alright, so we downloaded the display driver uninstaller, DDU, which is, if I remember right, is the one that's recommended for wiping out everything. Okay, reboot in safe mode. That's fine. Alright, we are now in safe mode. Let's wipe out all the old drivers and start over. I think it'll be okay letting Windows just install the drivers at once because it is installing the same ones. Okay, so we want to okay, it's shutting that off. That's fine. It's going to rip out all those AMD drivers. Yes, I know what safe mode is. I'm a big boy. Alright, we're restarting, and then we'll do the same thing for the NVIDIA drivers and then reinstall manually. So that's going to look exactly the same as what we just did. Alright, we're back again. We've uninstalled all the old drivers. Windows still tried to install a driver, then I restarted and then used the NVIDIA installer to do a clean install and hopefully wipe out everything. Okay, now, let's see, image settings. See if there's any way I can make this more gentle. Single display. How about that? That's a simple setting. Okay, we'll do that one first because I know SLI doesn't like, this version of SLI doesn't like multiple displays, so maybe that will help. We'll leave that all normal. Resolution is at its native, which it recognizes. Which the very fact that it was missing, it lost that native understanding is concerning. So that's good. Color. Rotate display, just desktop size proportion. Set up multiple displays. We are doing a single display. And we don't need any of that. Okay. Alright. Here we go. Will it work? I hope so. Please work. Please work. Oh? Huh? All right, well, I also took the lavalier mic off just because, why not? Let's try, well, you know what? Let's just try replacing it with another one. Because this one is missing its little doodad there, so it may be slightly damaged. So we'll do that. We've unplugged from power, of course. I don't know if there's an official way to connect these. So the next one we'll also try reverse, because why not? Alright, this one is a Republican Gamers version, and it's a bit longer. So now we'll put the nubbins up at the top, if that even makes any difference. Oh, can we even do that? Yes, we can. So they fit right in. Alright, oh dear. Okay, it sticks out a bit more, but since it's looser, I think it has there's less of a pressure problem. All things considered. So hopefully that'll do it. No. Well, what if the problem is that we're using a DVI to VGA adapter going to a VGA monitor? Maybe SLI on these cards really only wants to work with a true DVI monitor. Nope. Alright, so we've tried switching cables and flipping orientation. We've tried switching monitors. If you connect to the upper card, because that's not the primary card, you don't get a signal, so that one's not the issue. We've uninstalled all the drivers, including drivers for a card that's no longer attached, and it's still not quite doing it. So the only other option I see at the moment is to try flipping the cards around. If it completely fails to work at all, in that scenario, it could be one of the cards is not good. Though, considering how many times I've done this, there's a good chance I have flipped them around multiple occasions, so they should both be working. It'd be very strange if I had somehow miraculously always put the working card in the primary slot, which is actually the lower slot here. And in the BIOS, at least on the only references to SLI are in the memory section for advanced memory profiles, and SLI is one of the options, and that is turned on. So we'll flip around, we'll check the BIOS, see if anything is hiding or a new option appeared because there's two cards after we flip them. So let's give that a go. This was the bottom card. Not there. There we go. Ow. Bottom card now moves to the top. And we'll be smart this time. We'll plug the power in before we put it in, because we're intelligent people now. We've gone down this road so many times. We're starting to figure things out. He says as he has problems just getting the card into its slot. Okay, securely in. That's in. We need to take our sound card. And no, I do not like grabbing it on the component side, but things sometimes happen. That is a legitimate criticism. You should not do that. Okay, we'll put the floppy cable in, and we'll get the computer fired back up. So I was just in the BIOS with the camera not rolling, and anyway, the only reference to SLI is in the DDR2 profiles, and it is enabled. So there we go. Alright, so the uninstalled drivers, reinstalled them after re-downloading them. Instead of doing a clean install, I did the the express installation, which only means it holds on to maybe some of the settings that the baked-in Windows drivers, not the ones that it downloads from update, but this baked-in drivers settings it had. Anyway, when I started the machine, there was a little bubble saying that there was no SLI bridge. And so let's disable multi-GPU. Okay. Let's enable, so it's going to enable that much. Maybe. Okay, so it does that, but it doesn't detect the SLI bridge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shut down the computer, flip the bridge around, and see if that makes a difference. But we've gotten farther than we've gotten before. All right, I shut down the computer, flipped the connector around so that the nubbins are facing down, which means on a standard ATX system they'd be facing up. And now it has recognized it, and it gives me two options: setup is changed, update SLI configuration, and then SLI multi-monitor configuration options. I think what it's referring to is that we want the monitors to be set to, well, we're just going to hit update and see what happens. Click apply. So we're going from one multi-GPU to two. Come on. Come on. No. Gosh darn it. Well, I think we were close. We were so close this time. I think what we're going to have to do is just give up on quad SLI. Even though I know this motherboard can do it. It was earlier versions of this computer were sold with quad SLI as an option for people with deep pockets. Ugh. Well, if you folks know any other solutions, tell me. So, because in the meantime, I'm going to pull this out, and I won't show that. We'll just finish up because we know that at least one card will work. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this very sad episode, and I'll talk to you later. Ugh.